So I got my hair cut, which is good, you know, because it was time, whatever. But it's a little bit too short in the back to actually put up in a proper bun, which super bums me out because I feel like for this bar, for this character, I need a bun. Like I need to have a bun. It just fits with his whole sort of style and his career and yes, I don't have a bun because it's not long enough to do the bun thing, but super trying and also irritated that I can't make it so. Has nothing whatsoever to really do with, you know, the pour, except the aforementioned, I felt like a bun was needed for this character. I'm going to tell you who this character is in just a minute, but before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff.
One, two, three,
How's it going, Sudzers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 27 of 365 days of soap, and we are continuing on with the Magician series, which is so amazing. And today's bar is Dean Fogg. Now, if you're not familiar with the Magician series, Dean Fogg is what you might expect. He's the dean of a school, a magic school for adults. I've heard the magicians described as like Harry Potter, but with like adults, like in their college careers. But that's not really accurate based on the magicians and what a complete and total mind warp the entire thing is. As well as the things that they actually deal with is they're a lot darker than what you would get in Harry Potter in a children's book. But you know, I mean, there's magic and it's a school and there's magic and it's a school. So I guess for that reason, it kind of works. But Dean Fogg is not what you would expect from like a Dumbledore. He's not really a Dumbledore character. He's just not. And I love him so very much because of it, for sure. And his bar is, we are going to be working again with Sierra candles and their scents, and his bar is scented with whiskey. And if you know the show, you know why. So, it's awesome. I'm super excited for this. I also wanted to play around with, I bought this thing on Etsy that's used to put like a pattern into cookies or like shortbreads, right? Like a little roly roll. And so I'm gonna try it on the outside of the bar before I cut it to see if I can get bees around the edges, because Breakbills University, the school that they go to, it has a bee on the, yes. And so, you know, let's go to the pour and we can talk more about all that, you know, there while I'm trying to do the thing. Okay, I have no idea how I'm going to go 20 minutes without talking about spoilers. So, first up, Dean Fogg's bar smells of whiskey. Because obviously, and there is the vanillin content in this is 2%, which means, yeah, it's going to discolor. So we are going to be working with that. Now, I wanted to do something similar with the Dean Fogg as I did with the Jane, because those are both very interesting characters in that they sort of know everything. There are multiple timelines that exist, and they are the only two that have a memory of all of them. And so I wanted to do 40 different things, you know, for him, like I did with Jane. But unfortunately, with that vanillin content, I knew that I was not going to be able to do much of that. And so I decided instead to play with the colors of Brakebills University and essentially make it kind of, you know, like the Brakebills thing. So the Brakebills colors are black, white, and gold, and they have a bee on their banners. That is their logo or their mascot or whatever. And oh God, I forgot that I did this. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. So, all right. So, several months ago, Mr. Soap and Clay was watching little like mini teardrop pour things. He was watching one of the videos and he was listening to me gripe about squeeze bottles and how much I hate cleaning out the squeeze bottles. And he's like, why don't you do it with a syringe? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, I guess that's a good idea, but syringes are usually small because I'm thinking like, the little medicine dropper syringes that you have for like your kids' medicine, right? And he's like, no, I bet they sell them giant. And so he went on to Amazon and he bought those, and they are in fact giant. Now, this soap is going to be sent or colored with activated charcoal for the black, so that's awesome. Activated charcoal and kaolin clay in this, so it's a double whammy of all of the awesome things. And yeah, no, the syringe. And so these things showed up, and I'm like, oh my God. Well, now I have to try it. Now, this is the biggest one he bought. He also got a couple other smaller sizes to play with all of this. And, I am actually curious about this to see what this does. I'm thinking you'll be able to squeeze out the, all of the soap batter without any problem, regardless of how thick it is, right? And then so your little thing to make teardrops and whatnot, your receptacle, it's easier to clean. Like, it's not a bad idea. I'm a little bit concerned about using a syringe this big, but let's go check this out. Okay, now on to the pour of this, and you notice how the batter is already starting to look green. That's just the scent blend. I've noticed that with all whiskey and alcohol type blends. They green up a little bit. The ultimate bar will definitely stay, white. Now, I just put in the tip of this syringe, because I'm using a very thin soap batter with this, a piece of clay to stop it off, right? So it didn't all just leak out the rather large tip, right? And so then I realized I don't really know how to keep it from being, leaking out when I don't need it. And so, fine, that kind of works. And it actually does sort of work. And I don't really know what I had in mind for this as far as putting in the little mini teardrops. I think what I ultimately wanted to do was put 40 of them in, but then realized there's no way I'm going to get 40 teardrops into a soap bar, because that's a lot of teardrops. And then this batter started getting thick while the other batter was kind of thin. And so I'm like, screw it. I'll just put in some now and, just kind of see what happens. We're just experimenting at this point. Using this tool actually wasn't terrible. As you can see, it does lay down a pretty decent line with kind of minimal effort, but for one this size, you definitely need to use both hands, one to guide the actual syringe through the mold, and the other to push the plunger at the top, because that thing is big. It holds a lot of soap. But that's the thing. I imagine you could use that for all manner of pours, right? Like if you're wanting to do like a faux column or a faux funnel or whatever, you could totally just fill up a bunch of these big ones and do that. Like anything that you need squeeze bottles for, really. Like when we do like the dragon's egg looking soaps for like the Norberta, like all that. for sure. That totally works. I guess this is how I get away with, this is how I get through a 20-minute video without talking about Dean Fogg and potential spoilers for The Magicians. I just talk about how weird and random this pour was, because there really was just a ton of experimentation with this, just across the board. Because I also have this thing that I got on Etsy. It's a little acrylic, a little teeny tiny acrylic like roller, like rolling pin, that I thought the bees were like sticking out, but they were inverted. And so when I got it, I was like, I don't really think this is going to work for my purposes, but it's meant to like put a pattern, sort of stamp a pattern onto like cookies before you cook them or whatever. And so I thought maybe it could work for the outside of the bar. And then when I saw it, I was like, I don't really think this is going to work out, but I'll try it. But I was thinking I could get little gold flaked bumblebees on the actual, on the sides of the bar, which would be cool. It's another way, instead of doing an impression mat, because I didn't have an impression mat for bees and I wasn't going to make one because I feel like we've made too many impression mats and I just didn't want to. So there was that. But yeah, no, all of the experimentation with this. And the thing is, even with all the experimentation, that also perfectly fits Dean Fogg's bar, because he was involved in essentially the most important and world's biggest experiment involving humans and their lives, like their literal lives, whether or not they live and die, and time travel. And so he was part of a very big experiment. And so I guess it's fitting that I did nothing but experiment with this bar. But it's definitely a lot of experimentation for sure. That was not the intention. Like, I wasn't actively thinking about that as I was doing this. I just realized that as I'm talking about it. Now, this is where it actually started to get kind of complicated, just because the amount of extra air in here, because I didn't put very much soap into this syringe. And so I started getting nervous about trying to push it all out on top of the soap batter. I just saw that going very badly. So instead, I just decided to plunge it back into the beaker and just put everything from the beaker onto the top of the soap. So I didn't shove that entire syringe all the way down into the soap and make a huge mess. But look at that. There's like hardly any wasted soap batter in there. That totally worked. And then, I just put the rest of the white on the top, and I will go ahead and do a gold top on this, just in case the bee stuff doesn't work on the sides, which, I'm still going to try, still going to do the things, but just in case, want to make sure that gold is represented somewhere in here instead of just the stamp, which, there's lots of stamping going on with this bar actually. So there's definitely that. And for, all of my favorite bars, I like to write on the top before they get put into the oven for C-pop and gel. And so I'm going to write on the top of this one, "So what?" Because that's one of my favorite lines from Dean Fogg, and his delivery on it was just awesome and amazing. Okay, and on to the cut for this. And as you can see on the sides, I super tried, but it did not work out the way that I expected at all. So likely what I'm going to do is give these all a rinse after they finish curing up to see what the little bees look like once we get some of the mica off. But hey, just for messing around with that crazy little syringe, I'll be damned if it doesn't create some little teardrops. So that is an idea, my friends. I would recommend getting a smaller one than that giant one that I had, because I think that one was, God, I don't know. Did you guys see the measurement on it? It was big. You could put a lot of soap batter in that. And Yeah. I don't know. This is so super weird. We have some cool glycerin rivers going on in that too, which is awesome. Definitely adds some awesome texture. But we're not done with these. So the little teardrop whatevers don't super make a whole lot of sense in form, but that's completely okay because this is a Dean Fogg bar. And so a Dean Fogg bar gets something extra special to completely drive the point home that this is a whiskey bar, that Dean Fogg has to be whiskey. Because Dean Fogg does whiskey, not wisdom. And that is one of my favorite quotes from a different person who is talking to Dean Fogg. So, yes, so for that reason, he gets a little 3D printed stamp of a flask on the tops of his bars because, of course. Now, if you know the magicians, you know how like completely fitting this entire thing really is for him because, I can't, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to spoil the magicians. You should watch the magicians though. He is like the anti-Dumbledore. He's the exact opposite of everything that Dumbledore is, except for the wisdom part, because I also think that Dean Fogg is a very talented and smart magician. It's just he had to live through so many different things that he effectively became a high-functioning alcoholic throughout all of it just to get through his day and the memories of every single timeline and how they always went terribly awry. And that's all I'm really going to say about that. I don't feel like that's a spoiler. I mean, I guess it kind of is because you don't find out about the timelines until later, but it's timelines. It's cool. And he was, present for all of it, trying to make sure his students survived, and over again, they didn't. So again, he became a high-functioning alcoholic. So by the time, his students, who were always the same students, sort of knew him and continued to know him, they just saw him as like smart, weird Dean guy that drank a lot of alcohol. But, whatever. So I think those are perfect for Dean Fogg, and it's killing me. Have you guys watched The Magicians? Can we talk about it in the comments? Because, if there's spoilers in the comments, then you could just not read the comments. But I want to talk about this, and I love those bars so much. This was the weirdest pour ever. That is day 27, Dean Fogg's whiskey bar. And there it is, Dean Fogg's bar, scented with whiskey, because he does whiskey, not wisdom. Seriously, guys, I love the show. If you haven't seen the show, you need to see the show. And I love this bar. It was actually really difficult trying to figure out what to do for Dean Fogg because he's actually a very important character, and he's one of the characters that sort of knows everything while a bunch of the other key characters don't. And so he and Jane are really the ones who have a memory of everything that occurs, while the other ones, for different reasons, do not. And so I really wanted to do something really cool with this bar. Unfortunately, the whiskey was going to discolor anyway, so ultimately I decided we might as well just go with the Brakebills University colors, which are black, white, and gold. And there it is. If you are interested in this bar, this Dean Fogg, you can totally find it on the website once the Magician series has wrapped, for sure. We will release them all together. You know the drill. We do this with all the themes. But you can find everything else at soapandclay.com, like, the Labyrinth soaps, while you're waiting. That would be cool. For those of you who are interested in seeing what else I do with the Magicians and you're not subscribed, what's the matter with you? Click that button. I'm just kidding. Don't click the button if you don't want. But, if you want to, that would be awesome. I would love that. For those of you who have chosen to click that button, hey, thank you for being awesome. I love that. And you. And I am out of here for today. Thank you again for joining me for another round of 365 Days of Soap. I will be back here tomorrow with not a Magician's themed bar, but something equally awesome type of soapy fun. Bye.